What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the ABJ Podcast. Going to be episode 94. Getting closer to the end of the year, closer to the 100 mark. Thank you all so much for hanging in. Can't talk right now on this journey, and hope you all have been enjoying the interviews. Tons of pro wrestlers. I'm aware. It's kind of my niche. It's kind of what I like. So deal with it. It's the ABJ podcast. I make the rules. But no, I have a lot more other guests lined up for season 2, musicians and everything like that. But this is kind of my niche, and I think this is it's an industry I'm very passionate about, and I want more people to know about and hear about people's stories. So I really hope you guys are all enjoying it. If you are watching, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. It really helps the algorithm out. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. And if you want to check out all of my links to follow me on social media, as well as to join the communities to come and talk besides outside the podcast, that's all linked below, as well as merchandise. Grab some cool t-shirts. We're rotating shirts every month with new logos and logo spoofs of movies and horror movies and music and pop culture stuff. So make sure you check those out. There's always something new there, as well as the logos that are always up. And also, please support my guests and all of their links below, whether it be their merchandise pages and their social medias. And make sure you leave a little comment, say, hey, I listened to the podcast, I thought it was awesome, and where else can I find you? And the biggest thing too is you have a power of a listener or a fan. If you want to see these wrestlers or these people perform in your cities or come bring their art to you, contact your local promotions or your local venues and say, hey, I need this here, because you have a lot more power than you do by making those posts on social media, because people are like, wait, people are interested in this, let's look to bring it in, or them in, whether it be the venue, the music, the professional wrestling, the talent themselves. So cash in on that and use your power of social media in a positive way instead of fighting with your uncle about politics. But here, let's get into our interview today. I'm very excited for this one. Got to see her a few times at actually there's a little artwork of her over in the corner there. That's the Fightertainment. I got to see her perform there twice. She's been coming to the Sanctuary, which is really cool because we're awesome to see new talent come through and just absolutely tearing up on the Northeast wrestling independent scene, and traveling all over the place. Can't wait for you all to meet her, and I get to learn more about her. Without further ado, Journey Burke. What's going on?
Hello. I'm just, relaxing after a long day of
I love the
work
couch,
and
by the
being a
way.
human. Thank you. This is actually a blanket on top of the couch, because the couch itself I'm not a huge fan of, but the blanket makes everything very nice.
That was a move for a while in our household too. We had a Saint Bernard who just would jump on the couch and tear it apart. So we did the whole
Oh my
hide the dog
Yeah.
marks with the blanket.
Well, you can change it up whenever you want. You get a different blanket, It's the best of all the worlds, is then, you don't have to buy crazy expensive furniture, which is just
Awesome.
insane.
If you don't mind, just let the audience know exactly who you are and what you do.
So my name is Journey Burke Esquire. I'm also known as the Law of Attraction. If you can't tell from the name, I am a lawyer by day, professional wrestler by night. And that's a shoot. I am a real lawyer and obviously a real professional wrestler. So it's been the two professions you might not think go together, but they actually go very well together once you kind of learn a little bit more about both of them. So I'm sure we'll get into that later.
We need more people with law degrees in professional wrestling, because especially females, because we all know how the wrestling business is, and you walk in like, you're breaking the law, right? Stop it. Stop being weird.
Yeah. My response to a lot of things, not just in professional wrestling, is just stop being weird. So I think I can say it with a little bit of authority now that I have the Esquire behind my name. But
yes. So, and also I'm enjoying the fact on commentary now, I'm trying to incorporate that more into the commentary bit and using that character at the Sanctuary to kind of bring it out more. We got to have a little fun with the new tag team Pro Bono. I thought that was very creative. Yes. We kind of brought that to you, or like, hope she's into it.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
but I feel it's like more people need to embrace the character work and lean into it with the commentary and the presentation. I was telling you too, is like I just get She-Hulk vibes, right? Because like professional wrestlers are badasses and they beat people up, and like she's a lawyer but also a crime fighter, so it's kind of like that can blend in. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. That's the beautiful thing about making art, is everyone can kind of like insert their own takes on things and give each other feedback, and we all grow, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like your point about the character work, like I didn't even want to do a lawyer gimmick at first because I was like, like I do I do this every day. It's not fun for me, but I like there's a way to make it fun and like a way to make the character whoever you want it to be. So like embracing the lawyer cheesy like lines. I have a bunch of moves that are named after like legal phrases, and people think it's hilarious. And like that's really what matters as far as to me for wrestling, and having your character out there is just having people enjoy it. So I'm really happy to hear that people are having fun on commentary, especially when they get to make all the lawyer jokes and movie
I'm gonna
references with
find a
all the
way to
lawyers.
incorporate bird law into your I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but bird
I
law is
would
coming.
love it. Yes, yes. Please let me fight bird law.
Are you a lawyer? I'm a specialist in bird law. I love Always
Yeah.
Sunny. It's
Well,
the greatest.
I'm thinking bird law like the tag team of
Oh,
Speedball and Veda. But yeah,
yeah,
I mean I know the references as well, but I'm just
yeah.
like so there's bird law abound.
Yes, tons of bird law. Everyone's fan of bird law.
Yes. Yes.
So what? How did you lean into that? Well, we'll start with that right away. Like, how did you lead into making that into your character? Whose idea was it? Where did it spawn from?
So like I had toyed with the idea of doing a lawyer gimmick, and I was like, you know what? It's kind of cheap. Like I feel like it's just it's too easy for me because that's what I am. And I didn't know, obviously there's Veda Scott, who's another lawyer, and she had done the gimmick already. So I was like, I don't want to be compared to a bunch of other people. You know, I don't want people to think I'm copying Veda. Um, and finally I was like, you know what? I don't really have any other ideas, and I'm starting to get like, ready to debut, so I need a character. And what I kind of came up with, along with a friend, was I modeled myself after Elle Woods of Legally Blonde, because one of the decisions that I made is I wanted to be a baby face primarily. But again, a lot of lawyer characters are heels. So I was like, I think that could distinguish me from a lot of other lawyer characters or manager characters, or, just that type of character. So I
Hmm.
thought, okay, how do I make a lawyer a baby face? And Legally Blonde is one of my favorite movies in the whole world. So I always think, like, what would Elle Woods do? And then I was like, you know what? That would be a perfect gimmick. Like, just be Elle Woods. So,
Hmm.
because Elle Woods is definitely a baby face, like, obviously. And so I was like, okay, so I'll embrace the pink, I'll embrace, the girliness, and I'll embrace the lawyer, the smarts. And I think it really resonated with me because a lot of the times, like, I do feel like a lot of feminine characters as well in wrestling are often heels. So I thought, why not kind of be a hyper feminine character who can also be a baby face? And I mean, I think that's changing a lot now, but for the most part, when I was like trying to look into my character stuff, a lot of the hyper feminine characters were seen as heels. So that is also something that I wanted to kind of flip and just, you know, make more of a statement, I guess, with my character, that you can be super girly, you can be super smart, you can be, you know, really, really tough, and you can still be a baby face with all of those things.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah, that's
immediately
kind of
I latch
the
on to like
process.
especially now, like you think of uh the occupation wrestler, right? Like that was kind of like the joke back in the
Right.
days. Like we have a plumber and a race car driver.
Yeah.
And then the person who kind of made it cool again was Britt Baker, right? Like Britt Baker came out, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm a dentist. And
Hmm.
then she like put it in her like
Yep.
DM, I mean, and everyone's like, oh, this is kind of working because it's part of her who she is as real life. She can put it
Hmm.
into her move set, but it doesn't define who she is as a wrestler as well. And I think that's kind of where you're toting that line is also with your
Yeah.
character as well as your performance, which is a lot of fun. And then you can always do
Hmm.
comedy stuff with it too. Like there's so much
Right.
lawyer comedy that you can
Yeah.
have fun with it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, Britt Baker was also a big inspiration because, like, like you said, she was also the dentist wrestler, and I was like, you know what? Like, I could do that. Like, she has some themes in her character that are related to dentistry. Obviously, her finisher, like the lockjaw. So I was like, if if you do it right, it can be very cool. So
Yeah.
like
The last
like you
dentist we
said,
had was Isaac Yankem, and that wasn't as cool.
yank him.
Kane was a way
Yeah.
better character for him.
Yeah.
So were you always a lifelong wrestling fan? How did you fall in love with the industry?
I didn't start watching wrestling until January of 2020.
I
So
love I love that.
yeah, I knew nothing about wrestling. I mean, I knew what it was. When I was growing up, my aunt was a really big wrestling fan, but pretty much the only thing I knew was that she loved The Rock.
Hmm.
So, like, I knew who The Rock was, and like, I knew who John Cena was, and like the big names, but I it just never sparked my interest. Nobody in my family watched it other than my aunt. And then I watched the ESPN 30 for 30 on Ric Flair. And I was like, this stuff seems kind of interesting.
Good thing it
And
wasn't Dark Side of the Ring first.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and they had Charlotte Flair in that too. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of women's wrestling. So I was like, what the heck is this? Like, I mean, I know it's wrestling, and I was definitely one of the people who was like, wrestling's fake. Why do people watch it? Like, if you know it's fake. But I just didn't understand at the time. So I turned it on, like, I turned on SmackDown just ironically one day. And this was like right before the pandemic. So there were still crowds on like a couple of the episodes that I started watching. But I think maybe like 3 weeks into me watching wrestling, there were no more crowds. So I started watching it and literally, like, immediately was just hooked. Like, I have
If
no
the
explanation,
pandemic
but
era hooked you, that
yeah,
you're a fan. You're a fan.
yeah,
Because
it's in there deep. It's in
yeah,
there.
because like most fans who are fans and then most fans hate the pandemic era. I enjoyed it.
Mhm,
I thought it was ways for wrestling to be more creative again, especially on the indie scene. It was so much fun
mhm,
doing private tapings and doing like the skits and the bits and filming wrestling in a different light. Like in that aspect, I
mhm.
wish it kind of went back sometimes. Like I wish more people were like, hey, we just like get together and just film. We're gonna use a ring. We're gonna film matches. It's gonna be put on YouTube as like a story. More like I hope that becomes a thing still where it doesn't just go away because cinematic wrestling was so much
Mhm.
fucking fun to film.
Oh my
But
gosh,
yeah,
yeah.
the pandemic era was very interesting. And Charlotte, man, she's the goat. She's people. A lot of people hate her because they think she only got everything because of her name. But you strip that name away, and her abilities speak for
Yeah,
themselves.
she still
Yeah.
got it. I mean, I actually like my cat who's laying over here. Her name is Charlie, and she's named after Charlotte Flair. So, Charlotte, like, Charlotte might not be my favorite wrestler, but she definitely has a big hand in getting me into wrestling because she was the first female wrestler that I ever saw. And just knowing that women's wrestling existed was just so exciting for me because I just like I just got enthralled. And I think in particular for wrestling, women's wrestling was what really drew me in. Because one of the first episodes that I watched, the first person that I was just like in awe of was Sasha Banks, and
Okay.
Sasha Banks at the time. And like just her entrance and her gear and like her talent, I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I didn't
Hmm.
even know this. Like, I had no concept of what wrestling was. So I had obviously no concept of what women's wrestling was. And so being able to see all that and experience that, I think for the first time when I'm a little bit older was really cool because I could actually, recognize all of the, I guess, stereotypes that go along with wrestling and then just kind of say, well, I don't care. I'm entertained. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
and then I
every
got
time I
stuck.
try to get someone new into what I say, don't think of it as you're watching a sport because I think too many people get the idea of
Mhm.
sport in their brain and then
Yeah.
because they think sport and they know it's predetermined, it's a turn off to them. And I'm like, no, think of it as like
Mhm.
you're watching theater. It's like
Right.
fall in love with the characters, like fall in love not so much with the athletic performance, but the story of what they're doing. Because a good performance in the ring is also storytelling if it's done right. Like I know some
It
plays
is.
like I'm AEW driven, and I know a lot of AEW is kind of like they just want to do cool stuff in the ring, and it's about the
Mhm.
spots and not so much the story. But when you get a good story in a match, it makes it all worthwhile. Like you're like, oh, that was really cool how they did that. But also
Yeah.
really cool that you got into women's wrestling when women's wrestling was good and not back in the
Yeah.
Attitude Era when it was just broad panty matches and just it was so bad. Like I was the person that's like, turn
Yeah.
off. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
didn't do it for me. And then once coming back
Mhm.
into it and seeing how it was taken seriously and people like who were really holding that flag bearer, like, no, we're gonna do everything the way the guys do it. I was like, women's wrestling got so good. It's like my favorite
Yeah.
now.
I
Yeah.
know, it's insane because like I had gone back, like once I was, full blown wrestling fan, I had gone back and started to watch like Attitude Era stuff, and I just was like not repulsed by the women's wrestling back then, but it was just more of a uh, I was like I'm just so sad to see that because you could tell a lot of the women were very talented and they were just there to look pretty, which was,
Or they were just hired before their looks and not their ability, which then diminished the
exactly.
whole industry, the whole women's division
Hmm.
in general. From there, they're like, we know she can't wrestle. She's just there because she's a Playboy model, essentially. But
Yeah.
there was
And,
a few bright spots who did really good stuff. Like you had Tori and
hmm
Ivory and Mickey James, and then Trish Stratus. It was like, I'm going to be more than just my looks, and I want to get good in the ring. And it was just
oh, yeah.
it was a huge transformation.
Yeah.
Who you said Charlotte isn't your favorite? You kind of said Sasha Banks. Who
Mhm.
are some other people that you pull from that are some of your favorites?
So Thunder Rosa is my number one favorite wrestler. She was really kind of the story that pushed me into trying professional wrestling. The feud with her and Britt Baker was just like, I was like, this is it. I have to try it. So Thunder Rosa is my favorite. There are a couple of her moves that I've sort of incorporated into my own move set and tried to make unique to me. But Britt Baker, obviously, Candice LeRae, Chris Statlander. Man, I don't
I've been
like I
booped.
said.
I don't want to brag or anything, but I've been booped.
That's crazy.
Yeah, she was at
So
the
I'm like
2300
getting,
arena.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
2300. H2O. She was at H2O. They did IWTV did the 100 episode or 100 show there, and she was on a team with Cassidy, and I got to meet both of them
yep,
because I was helping her production. And
very
she's like,
cool.
I
Yeah,
was like, nailed it.
yeah, and like Orange Cassidy too. I mean, I've been naming primarily female wrestlers, but I do have male wrestlers who are favorite
Hmm.
wrestlers. But like I said, Orange Cassidy, Undertaker, um, and gosh, like I could go on and on and on. Ricky Starks currently, like, kid is amazing. Just
Yeah,
go off, King. I could listen to him talk for hours,
his
honestly.
promo skills are so
Um,
amazing.
so good, so good. But yeah,
There's one of my guys. I'm a Eddie
there you
Kingston.
go. Yeah, Eddie is up there for me too. He's just nuts. So it's and Kenny Omega. I feel like you have to say Kenny Omega, but
That's like
yeah,
like him and Osprey are just givens. Like,
yeah. You don't need to say it anymore. There's
yeah, they're
like
just we
there's
know
like
you're a
S
fan.
tier and then your favorites. Like
Yeah. So you said one of your first matches that you really got over was the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa feud, which is amazing. That's interesting to me. Like I know it's a question in podcasting where people are like, I hate that question. How you got to know it? What? But it's important to hear like your snapshot, like
Mhm.
talking to Rocket and his introduction was Shane McMahon and Kane, and then Speedball was Kane. I was like, that's insane to me that like Kane is your
That's
because
crazy.
I guess because I was in before all that, and then Kane's
Mhm.
debut was amazing, still one of the best debuts. But I liked hearing that like your snapshot of professional wrestling. I think it's a very fun
Mhm.
little conversation bit. But yeah. So
Yeah.
were you also into sports or anything, or like who were you in
Mhm.
school? Were you a theater girl? Were you a cheerleader? Were you an athlete? Where did you fall into?
I fell into a lot of different categories. Sports wise, I was a cheerleader. So, cheer captain, all that good stuff. But I was also, in the smart kid classes, and I was like my normal day-to-day dress was very emo kid. So a lot of people got very confused with me being a cheerleader and me being in the smart classes or whatever. So it's been I can't really put myself in one box, but I
I
was a
love that.
cheerleader. And so that also kind of sparked my interest in attempting professional wrestling because I had seen a lot of the skills and stuff that people were doing in the ring. And I was like, that's very similar to like this skill set that I had in cheerleading and gymnastics. And then, obviously the performance aspect of it, sports entertainment. I was like, that is exactly what cheerleading is. Cheerleading is sports entertainment. I mean, I did competitive cheerleading, so it's a little bit different than sideline cheerleading.
Hmm.
But both, you're getting the crowd into it, you're getting people pumped up, you have choreography, like, it's all a performance. So I
The
really
choreography
like,
for me is the toughest. I don't like, I hear
yeah,
people put their matches together. I'm like, how do you memorize all of that in 15 minutes? Like,
yeah. It's definitely a skill, and it takes a lot of time, because, in cheerleading, we would work on one routine for months. And then, like you said, we have 15 minutes to call a 8 to 10 minute match sometimes. And it's just, you know, it is what it is. But it's a skill that you can work on just like anything else. And I think that in my training in particular, we did work on calling matches and memorization very, very quickly, which was very, very helpful. Um, but yeah, so I was a lot of different things, but I think finding wrestling kind of meshes a lot of those things together, which is very, very cool. And I just, like I've said before, I never knew it existed, but I'm so happy that I found it now and can be part of the community. It's very cool.
how did you find your first school, or how did you seek it out? Like, were you like, all right, I want to learn more about this? You're looking for your school. Where did you land?
So I had no idea what the indies were for a good year when I started watching wrestling. Because I started with WWE, and then I saw a commercial for AEW a couple months later. I was like, all right, I'll start watching this because the commercial was dope. And then that's when I actually learned about Orange Cassidy, of course. And I was like, this guy is the best thing I've ever seen. I was like, this is so amazing. And so I was like, I wonder, like, so, I go on Wikipedia and I'm like, I want to learn about the wrestler. And then I learned that there was this whole independent scene. And I was like, what? This is crazy. So I go on YouTube and I like consume all of the content that I can of, all these different wrestlers. And I learn about Shikara and I learn about all this other stuff. And so Shikara really struck me. And at the time, I didn't know a lot of, the drama that had happened. And it was really around the time that was like things had just come out. So
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I wasn't in the community. I didn't really know. But because I was so like fixated on Orange Cassidy at the time and, best friends and like all of the people in Shikara, I was, I was looking at where they trained. So I did end up going to the Wrestle Factory, and I trained with Sonny DeFarge, who like I owe a ton to because
The
Sonny was
goat,
incredible.
so good, so
Yeah,
good.
he's like, I don't know. Like I saw him this past weekend, and I'm just like, look at us, look at us.
He's on
Yeah.
my list for season 2. He's a season
Yes.
tour. Yeah,
Yes.
I actually want to kick off season 2 probably with him or somebody. Him and a few other people that are really
Very,
high on my list from that area. Yeah.
very cool. But yeah, so I ended up at the Wrestle Factory. I had gone like my first day, they offered like free intro classes for like one day. And I was like, you know what, I'll try this free class just to, see if I'm cut out for it. And that weekend was just like the weekend from hell for me because that Friday I had my second COVID shot and I was so sick. And then Saturday, I went to an LVAC show, my first independent wrestling show that I had gotten to see live. It was out
Which
at the
one? Which
Mahoney
one was it?
Drive-In Theater.
Oh, the drive-in.
The
Okay.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Is that the
And I
one
was
that
like,
Orange Cassidy was at?
yes, yeah.
Okay, I was
So,
in Vegas for that and I missed it.
oh, yeah. But I'm sitting here like marking out, like, oh my gosh, Orange Cassidy's right here. And then, you know, being weird. And then the next day, I was also moving apartments that weekend. So I'm like hauling stuff into a U-Haul and I'm currently at that point I was 2 hours away from the Wrestle Factory. So I'm like, I gotta drive 2 hours to get to this class just to see if I want to do professional wrestling. So like if anybody asks if I'm dedicated, I just tell them that story because there was nothing stopping me from getting to that show or that class. And then really the only thing I remember from that weekend, despite being sick, despite having to move, despite it being like super hot outside, is just the feeling that I had when I was in that class because it was the most fun I had ever had in my life. Like we did, the basics, starting to learn bumps, did some rolls, did, a couple like agility type things. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, I have to do this now. There is no stopping me. And from then, I signed up. I couldn't start in the next session, but they offered like little bite sized classes where you only had to go once a week on Sundays. And that worked really well with my schedule at the time. So I was like, I'll just sign up. I'm not expecting it to lead to anything. I'm not expecting to actually be a wrestler. I just want to do this because it's fun
Mhm.
and, maybe make a couple new friends. And yeah,
You'll
here I
definitely
am
meet a
now.
lot of friends in pro wrestling.
Yes.
That's my
Yes.
honestly, that's my favorite part about it is like, because it's like every show is a different group of people. Like, oh, you're booked here, and it's that group of people, and then it's this group is different, and like you kind of all meet up at that one show. You're like, I haven't seen you in so long. It's like that's my favorite part. It's just seeing everybody again
Oh, so
for
nice.
after missing each other for a couple weeks, but still watching each
Hmm.
other grow on social media and their matches, and like, yo, your match last weekend was amazing. Like, always good. It's
Yeah.
a really warm and welcoming environment.
Yeah.
Funny you bring up Cassidy. I was at a convention. I think it was last year. I was at a convention, and they were somebody had 8x10s, old 8x10s of like Chikara, just like laying out, and there was a colony one. All three of them, autographed
Oh my
colony.
god.
So like Fire Ant, Soldier Ant, and Green
Yeah.
Ant autograph. Player Uno, Player Dos autograph.
That's
The
so funny.
throwbacks with Boomer Hatfield autograph, like
Hmm.
all the old characters, like buying these. It's like,
Yep. I just take all my money. Yeah.
yeah. So it's I have like a pre-orange autograph. I won't say what character. If you know, you know. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's so
and I
cool.
actually
Yeah.
have a pair of orange glasses right there. They came in a crate. I
There
love
they
those little
are.
wrestling crates. You get all that fun, stupid stuff. But
I
yeah,
know.
everyone I know who has gotten to wrestling within the past 2 or 3 years who've never watched it before, um, immediately their favorite wrestler is Orange Cassidy. Every single one of them.
Right. I
Yeah.
know. Like that's something that was just so like I feel like I see a lot of, social media internet trolls talking about like, oh, he's not a real wrestler, blah blah blah. And I'm like, he is the person that gets people who were not wrestling fans to watch wrestling. Like,
Hmm.
isn't that what this is about? Like he's entertaining and he's got talent. Like he's an incredible wrestler. So like I don't understand why you're so mad. But like if you don't
I
like his
want him to
style,
break that mold
fine.
of a
Yeah.
character like him can't be a world champion. Like I want him, like when he wrestled Pac and Kenny, and I was like, and like that all those, I was like, he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it. Like
I know.
I
Oh my
consider
gosh.
myself a smart wrestling fan, and there was a few times in that match I'm like, are they gonna pull the trigger here? Are they gonna give it to Orange Cassidy? And but people are like, they hate, like that's the beautiful thing about his character is he makes you believe like he's just a joke. He doesn't care. He's lazy. He's this. He's everything that the
Mhm.
trolls say he is. And then by the end of the match, you're like, yo, this guy's so good. And then they forget and they see him wrestle again.
Yeah.
They're like, I hate this guy with the hands in the pocket. And then 8 minutes into the match, they're like, this guy's the greatest of all
This guy
time.
rules. I
Yeah,
know. I
he's
mean, like,
amazing.
whenever I think of psychology in wrestling, like, he is the first person that I go to. Well, not like,
Yeah.
not literally go to, but like, first matches I watch are Orange Cassidy matches because, like, I don't think there is any other wrestler who had gotten me as involved in their matches as he did. And I think that's something like there's a lot to be said about that in
Yeah.
in terms of
I
wrestling.
don't think there's another character on wrestling right now who makes you feel like that. Like
Mhm.
it's the only other time that I've really like I was in Wembley for the AEW show, and that street fight
Mhm.
was all over the place, but you're fixated on Kingston and you're fixated on Orange because they're just
Yep.
so polarizing. And then like Orange showed a whole nother layer to himself there. And then
Mhm.
the actually Punk and Joe was a really good match too. Storytelling wise in the ring was
Mhm.
amazing. And then the Adam Cole and MJF, like you want to talk about a range of
That was good.
emotions at a live
Yeah.
wrestling show. I was like,
That
this is what it's
was
about. Like,
oh man, that was crazy. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's the goal, right? You want people
Yeah.
to feel that thing. And I kind of on a smaller level, your first, I would say first and second, but I would lean maybe more towards the first if everything blends together. So if I'm wrong with this and it's flip-flopped, I'm sorry. But your performance of Fightertainment, you know what I mean? Like you come
Mhm.
out, your smaller statue, it's a bunch of dudes in there, and you're fighting in a
Mhm.
bar. And by the end of the show, everyone's like, is she winning this whole thing? Like you
Yeah.
were able to pull that out of people. So the fact that you're doing tape study and learning and trying to do that yourself, it's working. You're doing a good job of selling that underdog character and making people believe like, can she pull this off? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal, I think. And that was something that I kind of went in with my character as is, Elle Woods was an underdog. She got into Harvard. Nobody thought she was smart. So
Hmm.
I walk in the ring dressed in all pink, looking ridiculous, nobody thinks I'm going to overpower, these dudes that I'm fighting, or even some of the women that I fight who are much stronger than me, like Harleen. Like, they're like, there's no way that this tiny little girl who's dressed in all pink and like really peppy can take on this tough badass, like, who's gonna rip her face off. And then, surprise, like, you pull out something like a cool pin, like a really smart offense move. And I think it's in terms of the character work, I look at the character first and then I incorporate the moves, and I think that's how it's really helpful to, like, just get the people behind you and tell a really good story with your character, because everything just makes sense then, so you can easily suspend your disbelief to think that Journey Burke is going to beat Jordan Oliver in the middle of a bar. Like,
well, those fighter. I mean, I don't know what you're doing outside of everything because there's so much to follow and so many of my friends I'm trying to watch all the time. But like, how's those fighter entertainment shows been for you? Like, a way to like cut your teeth with really, really, really talented people, and it's awesome because you're like iron sharpens iron type moments where you're getting in there with the speedballs and the Jordan Olivers and the Griffin McCoys and stuff like that. But also, like, you got to do it on a completely different level where you're not doing it in a normal style wrestling match. So you have to learn a whole nother developed angle of this.
Yeah, I mean, those shows have definitely really shown me the importance of storytelling, because a lot of the moves that I do actually use ropes. So like, I'll be jumping off the ropes, I'll be hitting the ropes. There's no ropes there. So I have to tell a completely different story than just doing cool moves. So, you adapt your move set to what the bar looks like. You do, obviously I'm not going to overpower people in terms of some strikes. So I use my legs. My legs are the most powerful part of me. So I do a lot of kicks. I do a lot of, like, of course, I'll jump off the table and jump off certain things, which is always fun.
Use the wall.
In terms, use the wall. And like, I'm not going to outstrike Speedball as much as I would like to one day.
You better get those Taekwondo classes then. I got a lot of catching up to do.
I got a lot of catching up to do. But like because I'm so limited in my moveset in those shows, it really, again, tells the importance of, making things make sense and showing people that wrestling is more than just the moves. So there's a lot of funny spots that people get to do. The beer spots are hilarious. Like, I love them all. And, just creative ways to incorporate moves so that, you can still do cool things, but, kind of hinting at maybe another match that you're going to have later. And then so that people see something that you do in your first match, which may have won your first match, try it again in your second match, so that people can make that connection. And they're like, and that's what kind of gets them to believe that, oh, she could win this because, they saw me win with a certain move before, and maybe it doesn't work out the second time. So just building tension, and, making sure that you are engaging with the crowd in particular, because the crowd is right there, like, they're in your face. So if you ignore them, like, they're not going to have a good time. And it's just, so there's a lot of things that I've learned when you are limited in your move set, but you can do so much more in fightertainment and or wrestling. So.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. They're some of my favorite. Oh, I come from obviously the Sanctuary where we're stunt fighting. We're not wrestling.
Right.
There may be ropes, there may not be ropes, but it's more or less like, hey, go out there and get your character over. Go out there, and this is what it's like to work a camera. Like, there's cameras are roving, find them, get your stuff in. I think it's really special. And like how you were saying earlier, move sets. Like, someone who's commentary, I do more color than play by play. But even when someone comes up and they hand me a laundry list, so like, here's all my moves, and I'm like, no offense, are you going to be here next show? Are we rocking with you for the season? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not learning all your move. Like, your move is like everyone's moves. Like, a clothesline's a clothesline. Just because you call it the wham bam thank you ma'am, you know what I mean? Like, are you winning with it? They're like, no. Then I'm not even gonna.
Okay,
No offense, because like at the end of the day, like, if me as a commentator know every single move you've done, it's your debut here, it doesn't make sense in the fashion of like the story of the character, like the Sanctuary, because Sanctuary is also very well aware of itself that it's a stunt show and it's all like fake. Like, that's kind of the bit to it as well. But it's like, now if you come and you're winning all the time and you're putting the matches together and you're getting victories with that move, then yes, then you've earned that spot and commentary, in my opinion, to get your move called out. But it's but how you're like, the fans don't know, like they're not like, oh, is that her finisher? Like you win with it, you're like, oh, I think that's her finisher. Then they see you wrestle a second time and you hit it again. You're like, I think, is that how she, like they have to remember. And then that 4 or 5 times of being a fan of, you're like, oh, I can't wait till she hits. Now they learn the name of the move. And I think that's a cool way of earning that respect with the fan as well as commentary and your viewership as well.
Yeah. I mean, you as the performer, you have to take the crowd with you. Like the crowd's not going to know what you're doing at the outset, even if they are, a smart wrestling fan, even if they've watched a billion wrestling matches. Like if they've never seen you before, you need to pull them in. You need to take them along the journey, if you will, and show them what you want them to see. And I think that's a lot of the things that people on the indies in particular have not really been able to grasp, just because they're like, oh, I can do all these cool moves, and if you wrestle in, let's say, Ridgefield Park, like the people who see wrestling in Ridgefield Park see a ton of good moves every day. Like there are a ton of talented
15
athletes
promotions running in
there.
Ridgefield Park.
Right. And so like what's going to separate you from the person who also does the really cool moves and the really cool spots? Like you need to take them along with you, let them know your struggle, let them know why you're an asshole if you're a heel. Like just give them something to grab onto so that they can go along with you. If you lose, like, you might have them at a high point when you do a really cool spot and then they're, completely checked out for the rest of the match, which you don't want. So the little character beats and, psychology of the match is what really keeps people interested, or at least that's what I've found and what I think and what I'm trying to work on.
Another thing I love about this podcast too is interviewing people like you and that the veterans always say these young performers don't think of psychology, don't think of what makes sense, and it's like I strongly disagree. I think there's a handful out there that still believe in it, but it's because you have good trainers as well. And you come from
I can't take any credit for that. It's all them.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying you have really talented people around, like that. You put yourself like, listen, you can go to a really bad school and people struggle. I've seen it on the scene, especially like women in the business. They go to a school and it's just like, oh, your characters, you're pretty, do these 3 moves, and they focus on 3 or 4 other people and they kind of get pushed under the rug. And then they go out in the scene and they get their first booking and they struggle. And it's like, you need to probably change your school, like go here because you're going to get utilized better, So that's a lot to do with it. But how many matches are you in your short time here?
So I'm still in my rookie year. I think currently I have had either 44 or 45 matches.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. I do keep a list because it's, let's just one day I'm going to look back on it, whether I make it or, whether someone else makes it. If I see somebody that I've wrestled on TV, like that's going to be the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, so exciting.
Yeah.
I think like there was like Brother Greatness was on Dynamite one time, and I know Junie Underwood had wrestled Brother Greatness, and I was like freaking out because I was like, you wrestled that guy, like it was just so cool to see like somebody that like I didn't even wrestle him, but like, my friends and like people that I train with, seeing them get to wrestle people who are on TV, like that's so cool. So yeah. I keep my list.
I mean, you wrestled an X Division champion, I'm just saying.
That's true. I did wrestle Jordan Oliver and Speedball Mike Bailey. So
yeah. And you were on the same show as Janela. He was AEW at one point in time.
Yeah. I mean, that was like the fightertainment stuff is just a fever dream, honestly. But so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then they're like, you never know who's showing up. So on your 45 matches, I'm sure a lot of repeat customers, right? Because you're still early and you're getting slowly working your way in. Who do you think right now is someone that it's going to take a lot of pages of your book? Someone who's probably going to be that frenemy, that person you're going to work a lot, maybe develop a rivalry with, or a friendship, or a tag team. Who you think who's been that person early in your career, and who's someone that you want to continue that journey with, no pun intended, along with as well?
So obviously the number one is Harleen Lopez. She and I will fight each other anytime, anywhere. And she like we just happen to be booked against each other a lot, or we'll be at shows together a lot, and they'll just throw us together, which is fine. I love wrestling Harleen. Another person that I've wrestled a lot is Zoe Cannon, and she's fairly new, but she is definitely one to watch. She is getting so good, and I'm so excited to see like her improve even more. I think I'm trying to think of other people, because like Harleen and I already have a feud. She hates the color pink, so we can't be friends. But yeah,
I'm just saying,
Zoe and
later
I,
in the future, when the fans develop the fact that this is a hate, the frenemy team has to come. Yeah, I mean, where you
we
come
had a
out all
tag
emo
match
and she
once.
comes out bubbly pink, like you have to trade off.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that'd be hilarious. But we were in a tag match once, but it did not go as planned, because she ditched me in the middle of not in the middle of the match, but I got pinned. She was nowhere to be found. But whatever, I'm not bitter about it.
You gotta be careful. She's always playing with knives and sharp things. She's a little unhinged. You gotta be careful with her.
I know, just a little bit. But you know what? I can take her. It's fine. But I'm trying to think of anyone else who.
Do you think someone that's who has sharp weapons all the time and is always threatening to hurt people, she would need a good lawyer? You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
You know what? That's a good point. I might sell it that way.
Yeah.
But Big Daddy Adriana, I've also wrestled her a bunch, and she's also so much fun to work with. Because I love being able to tell a story with her, because she's so strong and so much bigger than me. So it's a lot of fun to be able to play up that angle. And we've switched off who's babyface and who's heel, and I think we can still tell the story either way, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, those are the three currently, but I'm sure hopefully in the future there will be a lot more.
Where do you lie on working intergender? I mean, we do have somewhat fighter entertainment and here and there. Do you prefer the intergender matches? Like what is the difference? Is there a difference in style? Is there a difference in the prep or difference in ring?
I mean, the only real difference is what moves I do, because I do some lucha based stuff. So I need a base who can base for lucha stuff. So there's unfortunately not a lot of women who like train lucha who base, at least in this area, that I have met, but I'm sure they are out there, and I know that they are very talented. So there's not a huge difference. I love intergender wrestling. Like, I've trained with all guys. I mean, a few women, but I train with mostly guys. So practice matches are usually with dudes. There's really no difference in terms of the preparation, other than, maybe I'll throw in a move that I don't usually do in a women's match, just because there's, someone that can base for me for said move. But I think, I love watching intergender wrestling because you can do so many cool things. And again, not to say that there aren't women who can't do all these cool things, because women's matches are obviously very cool. It's just a different, just depending on who, because there's also dudes who can't base. So, It just really depends on who you're wrestling. But no, I would love to do more intergender matches than I do currently. I don't wrestle at a ton of places that embrace intergender wrestling totally. I think there's a lot of places that are still afraid of it, and it happens. I get it, but kind of.
I think the biggest difference, and some of the people I've talked to, they'll say, for some reason when they wrestle intergender as the female, they feel like the guys, like, they get pissed at the guys if they don't lay their shots in, and then they can kind of lay a shot in harder on a guy, and then they work another girl, and I don't know if they're afraid that the girl's going to be catty or upset by it, but like they hold off so hard on their strikes when they're working female matches. I'm like, I watched you work this dude last weekend and you almost broke his jaw. Why are you softening it here? And she's like, I don't want her to get mad at me. I'm like, lay your shots in.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely the person who says, like, fucking hit me, dude. Like, not even in a way of like, oh, I have to give something to sell. I'm just like, I can take it. Like, I can take a lot of pain, so you're not gonna hurt me. I want it to look good. Just don't hit me in the face. Like, that's really my only caveat, is like, please don't hit me in the head, because I don't want a concussion. And I can't show up to court with a black eye. So let's just.
It would be badass though. It would be real bad.
You know what?
I'll fight for you.
I will fight for you.
That would be a poster, like you and your suit with like a black eye and a fat, like a bloody lip, and like I will fight for you.
Yeah.
Journey.
But I've actually kind of found the opposite of intergender wrestling sometimes when, like, if I'm wrestling a guy that I don't know very well, sometimes they'll hold back because they don't want to hit me. And I'm like, just hit me. Like, I've trained the same thing that you have. We've all trained together. Like, I've trained with guys. We all hit each other. And, like, if you're hitting someone so hard that you actually hurt them, like, that's a problem for any gender, like, not just for girls. So there's really no reason that intergender wrestling should be viewed any differently than male wrestling or female wrestling. You know, and I think I've been very lucky with a lot of the women that I work is that we're all of the same mindset of like, we are tough. We are going to do all the things that the guys do, just like the guys do them, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah. So besides professional wrestling, what are some of your passions and some of your hobbies besides defending the good people of the world, right? We can go into whole lawyer talk and like I don't that's a tough gig, man, because sometimes especially if you're doing public defending or you get someone you're like, oh my god, like I know for a fact this person is guilty. You're like, but I gotta do my job. You know what I mean? But
my job, yeah. So I'm a huge music fan. Like I said, I was an emo kid, so a lot of concerts, I actually get to go to When We Were Young music festival in October, which is really exciting. I'm
jealous.
so like, I can't wait. So yeah, anytime I get to go to a concert of a band that I like, I'm on it. Listen to a lot of music.
Who's the most recent concert?
The most recent concert I went to was Fall Out Boy, in Jersey. They were with Bring Me the Horizon and Games We Play and Royal and the Serpent, and it was so much fun.
I seen them for the first time as soon as the pandemic broke. I went to the Hell Omega tour, so I seen them, Weezer,
I was there too.
And Green Day. I love Green Day. That's the third time I've seen Green Day. I hands down think they are the best live band. One of the best live. Billy is so good.
Oh my gosh,
at controlling the crowd.
So good, and that's another thing too. Of like, I don't know. I know we're talking non-wrestling, but like a lot of the performance aspect that I take is from a lot of musicians because like they're doing the same thing. Like they have to get the crowd pumped up. They have to keep the crowd energized and keep the crowd into the performance. So, you know, you can draw from a lot of different arts to
you know what Green Day taught me, and I try to tell wrestling promoters this all the time. Before your show starts, play music and play it loud. And then right before your show gets going, play a very, very well-known, like Green Day's move is Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know if they did it at your show, but what they'll do is they'll play Bohemian Rhapsody and then they'll like hit the lights, like the left side. And everyone's like, Mamma Mia. And then like they hit the other, and then it gets the whole crowd singing along. It gets them into like, they just sang Queen. Everybody knows that the whole place is rocking because they heard a song by playing over a loudspeaker. And then Green Day hits the stage and they're already primed. They're ready to go. I think that's a good move.
Yeah. I also went to Hell Omega tour back in, I guess it would have been July of 21. So that was a really, really good show. It was so much fun. But yeah, Fall Out Boy is my favorite band in the whole wide world. So anytime I get to go see Fall Out Boy, I'm gonna do it. So.
That they're up there for me. Definitely not my number one, but they're probably top 10. I like Fall Out Boy a lot. Like you know at least 15 Fall Out Boy songs.
Yeah, you think you don't, but you do.
I remember when they first came out. That's how old I am. I was like, oh, who's this group? And they're like, they were very polarizing because they were like mixed, like, oh, they're a boy band or they a punk band or they like everyone kind of tried to pigeonhole them right away. And then like everyone thought that Pete was the lead singer because most lead singers are like the attractive one, and they always push Pete out in front. They're like, here's our attractive bass player,
front guy,
and then the singer's like, hey, great band. Besides music, what else are you into? Are you movies, TV shows?
Yeah, I'm more of a movie gal. I'm not like, movie critic or anything, but I love watching movies. I love going to the movies, like being in a movie theater. That's just so much fun. I can't remember. I think the last movie I saw was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which I loved, which is
it was really
hilarious.
Good. It was a good new take on the characters, and I liked how they made them kids.
I liked.
It's gonna be fun to grow with them.
Yeah, because I feel like every franchise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles just has focused on different aspects of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. And like this one was
Hmm.
very teenage centric, which I thought was really
Yeah,
fascinating
like
because I
young
hadn't
teen though,
seen that.
like
Yeah,
13, like they're
yeah,
young, like
just starting high school teenager. Yeah,
like don't know
so
how to fight yet. Like I thought that was so smart to go that route.
it
Like
was,
no Shredder,
yeah.
not even a hint at
Hmm.
Shredder or Foot Clan. It was just like, nope, we're hitting you with all mutants right away. That's the I'm like, this is so good. I love it.
It was a really cool take. So I really enjoyed
Who's your
that.
favorite turtle?
Raphael.
Are you a Raph fan?
Yes, yes.
What
I
what
have
what draws
like
you to Raph?
uh I mean like I'm a moody girl, so I definitely
Okay.
love the moody, like brooding, very like strong type of, I don't need anybody to help me type of person, which is not healthy, but that's for a different time.
When I
But,
had
I
Griffin
just,
McCoy on, I made him rank all of the Young, Dumb, and Broke as Ninja Turtles.
oh no,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Um,
that's hilarious.
I'm a
Yeah.
Mikey guy, but I am
Hmm.
before any turtle. I'm a Casey Jones guy. I
Yeah,
am a huge Casey Jones fan. But like Casey
that's
Jones and
fair.
Raph are like the rivals. Like they
Yeah.
push each other to the limits. You know.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, like me and my siblings, like I have a older brother and an older sister, and they like all three of us, like growing up, we just always went to the movies, and so we always saw the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. So we each have our own, turtle. So there's only three of us, but I'm Raphael. My brother is Mikey, and then my sister is Donatello.
Okay, I love it.
So,
Have you?
hmm.
I know you're not. I don't know if you're like in the comics or anything, but if you're into checking out a good one, the Last Ronin book, you can get the whole series
Yeah.
now. It's so good.
Mhm. I
Have you
actually
heard anything about
just
it?
like I just looked up the plot on Wikipedia and I was like, I kind of want to read that. Like, I'm not a huge comic book person, but that one I was just like, this one looks really fascinating. So,
Yeah,
because obviously it's about
all the turtles
Raphael.
are
So I
gone
was
but
like,
one. There's
okay.
one left. I won't
Yeah.
spoil
Oh,
it
I'm
for
sorry.
you,
Did
but
I just
it's
spoil it?
no. That's the whole premise. Is the Last Ronin. There's one turtle left, and they
Hmm.
don't know who the turtle is until like I think it's the end of the first book or second. I forget exactly how they do it, but
Uh,
it's really really good. They're supposed to be making a video game off it.
ooh, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But so last one I want to ask you here, and then I have my
Hmm.
sponsored question. Um,
Yes.
on the scene, you got to work with a lot of people. With some of the names we said there, what your rivalries, but you get to go a lot of promotions, see a lot of things. What are some promotions, and who are some talent that people should be putting on their radar?
Oh my gosh. Uh, Uh, so BCW is kind of where I've been able to do the most, and they're up in Ridgefield Park. But it's Bree Combination Wrestling. They have been so kind to me. They get a lot of good talent. I've been able to wrestle some incredible names there, like Christina Marie, Emily J, and hopefully I get to go back in the next couple of months. But they have been really really kind to me in terms of getting me to be more confident in the ring and getting to really show my stuff. So definitely
Christine is very,
watch
very
out.
talented.
Oh my gosh, she is insane. She was my like second match that wasn't a student show match. So it was very intimidating, but I think like I go back and I watch that match and I'm like, this is honestly one of my best matches. And it's not because of anything I did. It's all Christina. Like
You check
she
out
just
her
knows how to
match.
control. You go ahead.
It should be on Premier Network, or it might even be on YouTube now on PPW. She wrestled Erica Lee. That was a great match. They
Ooh,
beat the
yeah.
shit out of each other. It was great.
Yeah.
And
And
Christina
yeah,
Marie
I
worked.
love that.
She worked Mercedes Martinez twice, and they were
Oh,
bangers. Yeah.
I bet. I bet. But like just her like being able to guide me through the match was just so helpful, and she was so kind and so helpful with feedback afterwards. Um Other talent. I mean, obviously I'm going to put over everybody that I train with, the Lost Boys, Harleen, um I mean the new Cyberhawk, I guess new old Cyberhawk. Um LVAC is something that I always like watching. I haven't been on the show yet, but I think it's a really good product. And they have a lot of those people on it. So always going to plug LVAC and, Sanctuary, of course, because they do so much fun stuff. And Three Legacies, is probably another one of the really, really big ones. Ricardo has done such a good job with building that school and building the wrestling community in Lancaster. Like there's really not a lot out there, but Three Legacies has brought a ton of people in to watch wrestling and just have a good time. And they have shows every month, which is really cool, because not a lot of indie promotions do that. And the storytelling with that promotion, I think, is also really, really good. So everybody
Yeah,
at
that's
Three
on my list.
Legacies, yeah, highly, highly recommend. I can't remember the date for their next show, but I won't be able to be there, unfortunately, because that's when I get to go to When We Were Young Fest. But everybody should go anyway. So,
Yes. Where can people find you on social media and support you?
on the social medias, Twitter is Journey Burke, just Journey like the band, Burke. And on Instagram, it's Journey Burke PW, because somebody already had Journey Burke, but that's okay. And TikTok, I think it's Journey Burke 3, something like that.
I do enjoy your
And
TikToks. I think you're a
thank
good TikTok
you.
follow. I will say this. I might have said it to you before, and if I didn't, I'm saying it now. I suggest more younger talent, especially if they're like any talent at any point. I know it's
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
try to do it. I'm terrible at it, but vlogging, like I think it's cool to watch the journey of someone going to a show and then like you know what I mean, and putting things together
Yeah.
and kind of giving that headspace. Even if no one watches it, it's a cool way to video journal your experience.
Yeah.
And you
And I
kind of
think
give
that's
that in
kind of
TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I approached TikTok, because I was very reticent to get a TikTok because I'm just like, oh, it's another social media thing that I have to keep up with and like respond to people on and blah, and like, talking about all the drags of social media. But I was like, you know what? This is a really good way to document just all of my wrestling travels, like all my journeys, all like the people that I get to wrestle, the moments that I get to have. Like I just recently won, a women's championship, so I got to document that, which was really, really cool. And now it's going to be there for me to look back on in a year, and hopefully I'm still wrestling in a year from now, and hopefully I've improved a lot and I can just look back and say this is my first title win, and it's there.
Yeah.
So yeah, TikTok is there. I agree that a lot of younger talent should utilize TikTok a lot more.
Fans
um,
like that behind the scenes stuff too. They're like, oh, I
yeah.
get to learn more about the person besides the character. And I think like, and a lot of people, like I was talking with some people and they're like, well, it's kind of hard to like let your character down when you work so hard at it. I'm like, yeah, but like Adam Cole was the biggest piece of shit heel in wrestling, but then people won't follow him on Twitch and they see how he's a sweetheart. And like
Hmm.
they can differentiate the two, you know what I mean? Like I think
Right.
fans are at that point where they can do that, but I think it's a cool way to do it. And like you said, it's a good way to look back at your
Mhm.
journey.
Yeah. I mean, we're not all going to be the Undertaker here. So if I break kayfabe here and there, it's okay. It's really
Yeah.
fine. But and then I do have a Facebook page. I think I think those are all of my social medias. Threads. I do have a Threads. I don't go on there very often.
I
But
copy and paste the same post and I put it on
yeah.
every firm. Yeah, that's what I do. I'm lazy. I'm lazy, but it's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
So whatever social medias you have, I probably am there. I do have my merch on my Brainbuster, and we'll hope, and at shows and stuff, I'll have extra 8x10s that you can't get on Brainbuster.
Awesome. Last question is logos by Hunter. Great sponsor of the
Hmm.
show. Helps me a lot. Makes a lot of cool logos for me all in my shop. So go check him out. And if you're looking for new logos or merch, if you're a podcaster, wrestler, anything like that, hit him up. Links are in my link tree as well as Crafts by Lily. There's a bunch of people I work with. If you need music, if you need logos, all that stuff. But the question is, if you can write a letter to a younger Journey Burke, what would that letter say?
Oh,
He always ends it on a deep one. That's nice.
oh my gosh, yeah, that is a deep one. It would definitely be it's okay to ask for help, and just kind of reassuring her that asking for help doesn't make you weak. Asking for help will make your bonds stronger with the people around you, and help you connect with people much easier and help you find your community. Because wrestling has taught me a lot of that, of asking for help, asking for help with matches, asking for help with getting to a show, not even not necessarily like a ride, but if I want to make a connection at a show and I see somebody's there, just ask them if you can come along. And I mean, it translates to bigger things, but wrestling has taught me a lot about asking for help, and how good it can be and how helpful people are and how wonderful it is to have a sense of community.
Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was an absolute pleasure. We definitely have to
Yeah.
touch back on season 2. Like I said, there's a lot on my list. You
For
and
sure.
Harleen and Junie and all that whole crew, because
Mhm.
there's a few people I want to check, like Precious, Vince Torres, a bunch of them that I've gotten early on, and it'd be fun to like every 5 or 6 months touch back in and be like, where are you at now? Let's like, what's been your
Yeah.
journey? What's been some highlights? Like I think it'd be fun to have a handful of people that are on that upswing and having
Mhm.
and checking in every couple months. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I appreciate you
Yeah.
doing this. I can't wait to see you down
Absolutely.
the road. I'll probably hopefully first Friday at Sanctuary.
Yes. I plan on it.
So
I mean, as of right now.
yeah.
So
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Here is some music by the Converse Kid, and we'll see you next Thursday if I can find the button.
thank you.
Bye.